Cuba maintains one of the largest militaries in the Caribbean, with approximately 49,000 active personnel and reserves exceeding 100,000. This is every major weapon system Cuba operates. Main battle tanks, T-55. The T-55 forms Cuba's primary armored force with several hundred vehicles in service. This Soviet main battle tank mounts a 100mm rifled gun, capable of firing armor-piercing and high-explosive rounds. The tank weighs 36 tons with frontal armor up to 200mm thick. The T-55's diesel engine provides 400 horsepower, giving it a top speed of 50 kilometers per hour. The design dates from the mid-1950s, but remains functional for its intended role. Cuban T-55s lack modern fire control systems and thermal optics, relying on basic optical rangefinders and iron sights. The tanks can engage targets effectively at ranges under 1,000 meters, but struggle beyond that distance. Cuba uses these tanks primarily for area defense and supporting infantry rather than mobile armored warfare. T-62. Cuba operates T-62 tanks alongside the T-55 fleet. The T-62 upgrades the main gun to 115mm with improved armor penetration. The design is slightly larger at 40 tons with similar mobility to the T-55. The smoothbore gun provides better accuracy and can fire more modern ammunition types than the T-55's rifled barrel. Cuban T-62s serve in similar defensive roles, positioned to defend key terrain and urban areas. Like the T-55, these tanks lack sophisticated fire control, but remain capable of destroying light armor and fortifications at close to medium range. Armored Fighting Vehicles and APCs BMP-1. The BMP-1 infantry fighting vehicle transports 8 dismounts while providing fire support with a 73mm gun and AT-3 Sagar anti-tank missile. The vehicle's aluminum armor protects against small arms and shell fragments, but not anti-tank weapons. The BMP-1 is fully amphibious, using a water jet propulsion system, making it valuable for Cuba's coastal defense strategy. The Sagar missile engages armor at ranges up to 3,000 meters using wire guidance. Cuban BMP-1s provide mechanized infantry with mobility and firepower for counterattacks or rapid repositioning. BRDM-2. The BRDM-2 reconnaissance vehicle scouts ahead of formations and provides early warning. This four-wheeled amphibious vehicle mounts a 14.5mm heavy machine gun in a small turret. The BRDM-2's thin armor protects only against rifle fire, making it suitable for reconnaissance rather than direct combat. Cuban units use BRDM-2s for coastal patrol, border surveillance, and screening operations. The vehicle's amphibious capability allows it to cross rivers and operate in Cuba's swampy coastal regions. Cuba operates multiple generations of Soviet armored personnel carriers for troop transport. The BTR-60 features 8 wheels and carries 14 troops with basic protection. The BTR-50 uses tracks and can carry 20 troops while being fully amphibious. The BTR-152 is an older 6-wheeled design from the 1950s, still in service. These vehicles provide protected mobility for infantry moving to defensive positions or conducting counterattacks. None mount significant weapons beyond machine guns, focusing instead on transporting troops safely under fire. Artillery and rocket systems. D-31 22mm howitzer. The D-30 towed howitzer provides Cuban artillery units with indirect fire capability out to 15 kilometers. This gun uses a unique 3-legged trail system, allowing rapid traverse without repositioning. Cuban artillery doctrine emphasizes pre-registered defensive fires, covering likely invasion routes and landing beaches. The D-30 fires high explosive, smoke, and illumination rounds. Artillery crews can emplace and fire these guns quickly from prepared positions, then displace to alternate sites to avoid counter-battery fire. BM-21 Grad. The BM-21 Grad multiple rocket launcher fires salvos of 40 22mm rockets from a truck-mounted system. The Grad saturates areas up to 20 kilometers away with rockets that carry high-explosive fragmentation warheads. Cuban forces would use Grads to interdict landing zones, disrupt assembly areas, or suppress enemy positions before counterattacks. The system launches its full load in 20 seconds, then the vehicle relocates to reload and fire again. The Grad's unguided rockets lack precision, but deliver significant firepower quickly. Cuban infantry units employ various caliber mortars from 60mm to 120mm for close fire support. These indirect fire weapons engage targets hidden behind cover or in defilade. Cuba also maintains towed anti-tank guns, firing armor-piercing rounds. While dated, these weapons positioned in prepared ambush sites can damage or destroy armored vehicles at close range. Combat and attack aircraft, MiG-21. Cuba operates approximately 40 MiG-21 fighters, Soviet Delta Wing interceptors designed in the 1950s. The MiG-21 reaches speeds exceeding Mach 2 with a ceiling of 17,000 meters. Cuban variants carry R-3 and R-60 air-to-air missiles for interception, plus bombs and rockets for ground attack. The aircraft lacks modern avionics, relying on basic radar and gun sights. Cuban pilots train primarily for point defense, protecting specific targets rather than air superiority operations. The MiG-21's small size and high speed make it difficult to track visually, though modern radar detects it easily. Cuba would likely use these aircraft in hit-and-run attacks rather than sustained air combat. MiG-29A. Cuba possesses a small number of MiG-29 fighters acquired in the late Cold War. The MiG-29 is a fourth-generation fighter with look-down to shoot-down radar and semi-active radar-guided missiles. The twin-engine design provides excellent maneuverability and can engage targets at beyond visual range. However, Cuba struggles to maintain these complex aircraft due to spare parts shortages. Cuban MiG-29s likely have limited operational readiness, but represent the most capable aircraft in the inventory when serviceable. Mi-24 Hind. The Mi-24 attack helicopter mounts rocket pods, anti-tank missiles, and a nose-mounted gun while carrying 8 troops in a rear compartment. This heavily armored helicopter was designed for low-altitude attacks supporting ground forces. Cuban Mi-24s would likely operate at night or in limited visibility to reduce vulnerability while attacking landing forces or supporting counterattacks. The helicopter's armor protects against small arms and light anti-aircraft fire, L-39. Cuba uses L-39 Albatross jet trainers for pilot training and light attack missions. These Czech-built aircraft can carry rockets, bombs, and gun pods on underwing pylons. While not designed for combat, Cuba employs L-39s in ground attack roles due to lack of dedicated attack aircraft. The L-39 is simple to maintain and operate, making it practical for Cuba's limited resources. Transport and support aircraft, AN-26, and light transports. Cuba operates AN-26 turboprop transports for moving troops, supplies, and equipment. These aircraft provide basic airlift capability within Cuban airspace. The AN-26 can operate from short, unprepared runways, useful for dispersing operations away from main air bases. Cuba also maintains various light transport aircraft for liaison and logistics missions. Air defense systems, Strela 2, Strela 3, and Igla man-pads. Cuban infantry units carry Soviet man-portable air defense systems for point defense against aircraft and helicopters. The Strela 2 engages targets out to 4 kilometers using infrared guidance. The Strela 3 and Igla represent improved versions with better range and resistance to countermeasures. These shoulder-fired missiles threaten low-flying aircraft and helicopters, particularly during landing operations or close air support missions. Cuban doctrine emphasizes dense man-pads, coverage around key facilities and defensive positions. Cuba maintains S-75 and S-125 surface-to-air missile systems dating from the 1950s and 60s. The S-75 engages aircraft at ranges up to 45 kilometers at medium to high altitude. The S-125 covers similar ranges at lower altitudes. Both systems use radio command guidance, and large high-explosive warheads. Cuban air defense forces would employ these systems to create no-fly zones over critical areas, forcing aircraft to fly low, where man-pads can engage them. The radars can be jammed or deceived, but the missiles remain dangerous to aircraft within their engagement envelope. The Cub and Osa represent mobile medium-range air defense systems that Cuban forces can reposition as needed. The Cub engages targets out to 25 kilometers using semi-active radar guidance. Known the E-OSA system provides similar capability on a wheeled chassis for road mobility. These systems create overlapping coverage zones that aircraft must penetrate or avoid. Cuban air defense doctrine layers these systems with man-pads and anti-aircraft guns to force aircraft into kill zones. Cuba employs various anti-aircraft guns for low-altitude defense. The ZU-23-2 is a towed twin 23mm cannon. The ZSU-23-4 Shilka mounts 4 23mm guns on a tracked chassis with radar fire control. The ZSU 57-2 carries twin 57mm autocannons. These guns engage low-flying aircraft and helicopters with rapid fire. The Shilka's radar allows engagement in limited visibility. Anti-aircraft guns positioned around key sites create barriers helicopters must avoid or suppress. 4 K-51 Rubej coastal defense missiles. Cuba positions anti-ship missiles along its coastline to threaten naval vessels approaching shore. The Rubej system fires cruise missiles at surface ships out to 40 kilometers. These truck-mounted launchers can relocate after firing to avoid counter-battery strikes. Cuban coastal defense strategy relies on these missiles to inflict casualties on amphibious forces before they reach beaches. Naval Forces PALC-class corvettes. Cuba operates PALC-class corvettes, displacing 500 tons armed with anti-ship missiles, torpedoes, and guns. These small warships patrol Cuban territorial waters and can threaten surface vessels or submarines. The PALC class was designed for coastal defense rather than blue water operations. Cuban corvettes would likely operate close to shore, using islands and coastal features for cover while engaging targets with missiles. OSA-class missile boats. OSA-class fast attack craft carry anti-ship missiles on a small, fast hull. These boats use speed to close with targets, fire missiles, then withdraw. The OSA class displaces under 300 tons, but packs significant firepower with 4 anti-ship missiles. Cuban tactics would employ these boats in coordinated attacks using multiple vessels to overwhelm defenses, patrol boats, and coastal craft. Cuba maintains numerous patrol boats for surveillance, interdiction, and coastal security. These vessels lack significant armament but provide maritime domain awareness and can transport troops for coastal defense. Cuban patrol forces would monitor approaches and provide early warning of naval movements. Small arms and infantry weapons, AK-47 and AK-74. Cuban infantry carry AK-47 rifles in 7.62 by 39 or AK-74 rifles in 5.45 by 39. These Kalashnikov pattern rifles provide reliable automatic fire in Cuba's tropical climate. The AK-47 fires a larger cartridge with more stopping power, while the AK-74 uses a smaller round with less recoil. Cuban troops train extensively with these rifles, emphasizing marksmanship and fire discipline, RPK and PKM. Cuban squads employ RPK light machine guns, based on the AK platform, or PKM general-purpose machine guns, firing 7.62 by 54 rimmed. These weapons provide sustained fire, supporting infantry attacks or defensive positions. The belt-fed PKM offers superior sustained fire compared to the magazine-fed RPK. RPG-7. Infantry squads carry RPG-7 anti-tank rocket launchers for engaging armor and fortification. The RPG-7 fires an 85mm shaped charge warhead, capable of penetrating several 100mm of armor. Cuban troops would employ RPG-7s in ambushes and prepared defensive positions where they can engage targets at close range. The weapon is simple, reliable, and effective against vehicles and structures. SVD Dragunov. Cuban designated marksmen use SVD Dragunov rifles chambered in 7.62 by 54 rim. The Dragunov extends squad engagement range to 800 meters with its PSO-1 scope. This semi-automatic rifle allows marksmen to engage multiple targets quickly. Cuban marksmen would target leaders, crew-served weapon, and radio operator to disrupt enemy operation. Makarov and CZ-75. Cuban officers and vehicle crews carry Makarov pistols in 9x18. Makarov or CZ-75 pistols in 9mm parabellum as sidearms. These compact pistols serve as backup weapon and symbols of rank. They see limited combat use, but provide personal defense capability, as VAL and VSS Vintorez. Cuban Special Forces units reportedly use AS VAL and VSS Vintorez suppressed rifles firing 9x39mm subsonic ammunition. These weapons enable quiet engagement for reconnaissance, ambush, and sabotage operations. The integral suppressors reduce sound signature significantly, making them valuable for covert missions. Mambi and Alejandro. Cuba produces indigenous Mambi and Alejandro anti-material rifles for long-range engagement of equipment and light vehicles. These heavy rifles demonstrate Cuba's domestic arms industry attempting to supplement Soviet-era weapons. They can disable vehicles, radar, systems, and other equipment from standoff range. RGD-5 grenades, demolition charges, and mortars. Cuban infantry carry standard hand grenades, demolition charges for obstacle creation and destruction, and various caliber mortars for indirect fire. These weapons support infantry operations with close fire support and obstacle emplacement. Cuban defensive doctrine emphasizes extensive use of mines, obstacles, and demolitions to channel attackers into prepared kill zones.